and everything. It'll be great. See you then.
This week in Retronauts, all sons of old gods die!
I love Oh god.
Man, the dialogue in Strider there's not much of it, but
Yeah.
it's so great.
But it's memorable. Yeah.
Except the ooga booga da booga booga.
Oogie.
Yeah, I don't know
Yeah.
what language that is, but
I'm sure it's something.
But yeah, that's one of the little details that make that game so great.
Yeah. Well, they're all
is-
things that aren't really explained or belabored
Right.
or anything either.
No,
so
the
it's just
whole
got that
game is
enough
extremely-
aura of mystery. It's
yeah.
like, why is he riding a whale at the end?
It's
You will
very-
never fucking know.
It's very abstract. But I love the fact that, the story consists of 5-second chunks between each of the levels
Yeah.
that don't really clarify anything, but they lend it so much atmosphere because everyone speaks in their native tongue.
Yeah.
Like Tong Pu, the
Is
Chinese
has to
martial
do it in
artist,
Mandarin.
she speaks in Mandarin.
Yeah.
The Russian Politburo, or actually I guess they're Kazakhstani,
Kazakhstan,
yeah.
Soviet thing.
Kazakh
Yeah.
SSR.
Oh,
they speak in
world's
they speak
first
in Russian.
human centipede there, I think, actually.
Were they human though?
Oh, I guess.
were
Well,
like-
they're robot
they were
human
robots.
centipedes.
I just
with-
like that it's
with a hammer and sickle.
and hammer. That's
Oh
so great.
god, no,
geez.
that was an excellent first boss.
Yeah,
What do you
Yeah,
think
so
about that?
hi
I can't
everyone.
even-
Yeah, we're talking about Strider.
We're talking
probably.
about Strider this week, and as you can tell, we really love Strider. It's such a great game.
Oh, how could you
um,
not?
It really is such a unique game.
It is.
You know.
But
Wow,
the thing
I
is,
mean,
there are a lot of different
No, I
Strider
mean-
games, but we're kind of focusing on the arcade games
Yeah.
because it's kind of the epitome of
We
what
have to at
Strider
least
is.
mention the home conversions
yeah,
and
sure.
whatnot. I mean, those are
Right.
so odd. Also,
Yeah, we will.
Okay.
But
and the manga.
But we will get to all of that. First, I will introduce myself as the
Oh.
host of Retronauts, Jeremy Parrish.
Jeremy
and-
Parrish.
Jeremy Parrish.
He will never leave the studio alive.
I know.
I got you.
God,
and
I heard that
here
laugh
is
way too many times when I was playing Strider last night.
Grandmaster
Yeah.
Sharky
Yeah, that's me.
and
And Sam Kennedy.
oh,
to
you're
join-
you're the Grandmaster.
Oh,
It's true. You have to
awesome.
grow your
Right.
fingernails out.
Yeah, I know.
Can you materialize piranhas at me and make them fly
Why
through the air?
piranhas?
I don't know. that final battle's crazy. He's
I
just
don't know,
like
that's
jumping
why
around, cackling, and making piranhas appear out of thin air at you.
I love any
Oh,
kind of
God.
media like that where it's just it all seems so random, but you sort of in your head you want to fill in the blanks and make it into something that sort of makes sense. And you know if anybody actually came out and did that, it would never be satisfying.
Yeah,
It
yeah.
reminds me of like watching late night Doctor Who when I was like 4, on PBS, and it's just I have no idea what the fuck is going on, but it's probably cool, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah.
yeah,
Or watching
so
a cricket match, I guess.
basically
so much more
anything from the
entertaining.
UK was just baffling to you as a child.
Yeah, pretty much. Well, very much like Japan, small island nation of people who know how to queue and like tea. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, and incomprehensible media that comes out of it.
Interesting. Interesting. I never realized they had so much in common. It is kind of interesting because when I was younger, I was obsessed with British pop culture, and then that switched over to Japanese pop culture.
Well, the British are like the Simpsons did it of bizarre island nations. They beat Japan to everything.
Even the sex bots.
Wow, I don't want to know about.
Well, no, those were
British
Dutch
sex
wives. That was
bots.
from
that
was from the Netherlands.
It was. Wow, actually, I thought the Nazis were way into blow up dolls, weren't they? Isn't that how that works?
Yeah, but Dutch wives are like ancient.
Well, okay. We're
Anyway.
off topic. But
Are we? Are we really?
maybe that comes into the Strider mythos at some point.
I think,
would know.
yeah. I think one of the Chinese acrobats is actually a sex robot.
I didn't actually read the manga, so I don't know. But yeah,
The manga doesn't have anything to do with the arcade game.
it has to do with the NES game, sort of.
It does.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we should introduce this, I guess.
Okay.
Strider is a Capcom franchise.
If you could even call it a franchise.
It was actually designed as a franchise.
Well, yeah, it was supposed to be like a.
It was intended as a multimedia franchise.
Mhm.
The original plan was a manga, a serialized manga that appeared in, I don't know, some weekly or monthly magazine once a month for several months, and that was by I think Moto Kikaku. Which
Wait, so
was,
out of the gate, this was the plan that
Yeah,
Capcom
it was
had?
gonna be-
Oh,
from
okay,
what
I
I
didn't know
from
that.
what I've read
Yeah.
and what I've seen in interviews with Isuke, which is the nickname of the director, who was his actual name is
I can't recall.
his last name or his family name is Koichi. I can't remember his
Okay.
first name. And that's really sad because we're talking about his
Well,
game.
they cut him loose like immediately after. Actually, didn't
did they cut him loose,
or did he just leave? Yeah,
Or was he
Yeah.
batshit insane?
it's hard to tell with
Like,
the Japanese.
Might be.
Well,
I know.
obviously he was insane.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, so the plan was to create this multimedia franchise, which would include a manga, a serialized manga, and an NES game,
Yeah.
and an arcade game.
Mhm.
And the NES game and the manga are very closely related, but the arcade game is
its
like
own
it's completely
thing.
its own
Yeah,
thing.
It's bizarre.
And
And
the
the other weird
arcade
thing about
game hit first, or did the other, like, how did it all?
They both
The
it's
all at the
arcade
same
game,
time,
the arcade
or-
game hit first, and the NES
No,
game
it
hit in
was-
1989.
So did the arcade game.
Oh, did it? Okay,
they
well,
both
they
hit
were at
around
the same time.
Yeah, they both hit around the same time.
The weird thing is the NES game never came to Japan.
Right.
So
So
that was
so
US
Wait,
only.
what?
People-
Yeah,
Like, I
seriously.
don't understand how they like.
For years, people
Yeah.
have misattributed Strider as one of those arcade conversions to NES that just
Yeah.
turned into crap. But that's not the case.
No, there was
The-
very little communication.
Yeah, they were both
there.
in development in parallel. They both came out around the same time. It's hard to say exactly when Strider hit
It seems
the
like
arcade.
everybody was just sort of working from the same set of concept sketches and went off and did their
Basically,
own thing.
it was
with
like, here's a
Was
ninja
Capcom like,
in
oh
blue.
man, we are really onto something with this franchise? Like,
No, he's just really
like, I don't know.
schizophrenic.
Yeah, exactly.
I don't
like-
know.
I
don't
don't
know
get
the inner workings behind it all.
Yeah.
But yeah, the two games were in development in tandem,
Yeah.
and yeah. So
Hmm.
the manga was serialized in Japan, never left Japan. It was compiled into a book that I used to own, but was never localized into English.
So
or
you
anything
actually
like that.
you get to see a little bit more of what happened with Sheena and Kane and
and
Matic
Kane, yeah.
and
Right.
yeah, and those guys.
Those are all major characters in the manga. Like
Yeah.
it all ties into the NES game. But the NES game was developed in Capcom's Japanese studios, as far as I can tell. I
Mhm.
did some research into this, and it's hard to get specifics.
Yeah.
But it seems like it was developed internally.
It seems like
'cause
they
it had-
finished the Famicom game and they just never released it.
Yeah, it was only released in the U.S.,
Mhm.
never in Japan. So this game that was tied in with a Japan-only comic never came out in Japan. Meanwhile, in America, we never had the comic, so we didn't realize it was a tie-in.
Right.
It was just very.
This is
abstract
really
and
bizarre.
weird.
Like, was there any other game like that from Capcom at the time, like where they?
Where they tried to
Not that
just
I can
make
think
a
of.
Yeah.
thing out of
Yeah.
yeah.
But then also just release the game in the U.S. and like that's just
no, it's
so
probably
bizarre.
unique
There
for
were-
all this.
There
honestly.
were a handful of games that came out only in the U.S. I think Mighty Final Fight might have come out in the U.S. only.
But that was
Really?
later in the.
well,
That was
yeah,
later,
That was
but,
odd too.
But I think
But
it's,
still.
the system had kind of run its course in
That,
Japan
that was
at that
was
point,
years
but-
and years.
I could be
after,
wrong. Maybe it
but-
might be maybe
no, Mighty Final Fight was a
Final
really
came out
late
too.
release.
Yeah.
for
No,
the
it was like
NES.
1993.
Yeah,
It wasn't at the very end of the life, but it was close.
Yeah.
very
But
close.
still, God, that's just so bizarre. But anyway, yeah.
But yeah, and then there's the arcade game, which is the one that everyone really remembers
Yeah.
because
Because it was good. I mean,
well,
the-
because it was so different than anything else that was in the arcade at the time. It
Yeah.
was extremely cinematic. It was a very it was gameplay as narrative kind of experience, except
Right.
they never took the time to say what the narrative was.
I know.
it left you kind of
Right.
guessing, but you
Right.
knew that you were like in the year 2048 and you were flying into Kazakh SSR, so the Soviet Union was
it was
was
still there,
alive,
sort of.
right.
Yeah,
yeah, this was a little bit
they
like
they
a
lopped
little-
a side off one of their stars. But yeah,
yeah, basically. And you travel through, Kazakh and into Siberia and then onto a flying fortress and then you end up in the Amazon somehow and then you're on a space station. And
or the third moon.
the
That's-
third moon.
Yeah, why?
I don't know.
What
What's
happened to the
second
second
moon?
one?
I don't know.
We're never gonna know. Yeah.
They never explained that. So it's like this weird alternate reality. And
Yeah.
at the time, I don't think they thought of it as an alternate reality because I don't think they knew the Berlin Wall was about to collapse and Gorbachev
Like
was
minutes
about to come out
later,
with
yeah.
a megaphone and say, "Let's all be friends." Was that Yeltsin who did that, or was it?
That was
Gorbachev?
Yeltsin.
Okay.
Yeah.
But anyway, they wanted to be friends,
Yeah.
so we all became friends, except Putin. And yeah, so it was this really kind of different game. But the one thing they had in common was the main character, who
Mhm.
is a Strider. That was not his name. Strider is like his occupation, which is basically awesome space ninja with a laser sword or plasma sword.
Plasma
sorry.
sword. Well,
Yeah.
a plasma tonfa sword, sort of. It looked like a police nightstick with a plasma thing that came out of the end.
Well, I
But-
mean, yeah, he kind of held it like a tonfa, but you
Yeah.
know, it worked like a
well,
sword.
it had an extra handle, so
Sort of, yeah.
I mean, if you have a plasma sword, though, you're not going to beat somebody into submission with it. You're just
No.
Everybody's
going
going
to-
to fall apart in that
you're going to
awesome
cut them in
ninja
half
way.
and they're going to explode.
Yeah.
everything explodes in
All I
Strider,
know
and
is it
that's
made
awesome.
a cool sound.
Ching.
At least the arcade.
Yeah, yeah,
Ching,
yeah,
ching,
yeah.
ching, ching,
Yeah.
ching, 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 ching.
Yeah.
Yeah. I actually just found out because, of course, I was reading up on this beforehand, and lots of quotes from you actually on the articles about these games. But apparently, when you get that power up, that extends the range of the thing. That's only good for 100 slashes.
Oh, I didn't know
Oh,
that.
I didn't know that
Yeah.
either because it was
So
just.
if you're
I don't
sitting
care,
there
I'm
like
hammering
enjoying the
it.
sound,
Yeah.
then you've screwed yourself.
you
over.
can eventually run out, I suppose. But like that
I
ever
had
happened
no
before you
idea.
died?
Wow.
Yeah.
Huh.
Unfortunately, they've never been able to create a really great sequel to the arcade Strider. They've
Mm.
tried.
Well,
Strider
let's
came
see.
to Genesis, and
Yeah.
then US Gold got the license from Capcom.
So
and
US
I-
Gold,
I
and
never
it was
played-
developed by the same
Yeah.
outfit that did a lot of like the Amiga and whatnot conversions of the original Strider, which also really sucked. And yeah,
Right.
the Strider 2 they made, or was it Strider's Return, Strider's Revenge?
Strider Returns Journey into Darkness.
That was it. That was fucking terrible. And made even less sense if possible. Actually, did you play the Amiga version
I didn't.
of Strider Returns, the Darkness, whatever? You can turn into a robot. Actually, for some fucking reason,
Because it wasn't enough that you have like a robot bird
No.
and panther friends.
Y-
Now you
now,
can turn
yes,
into a robot.
if you had enough power ups, you could, you'd turn into a
but
robot.
that Strider
and you could,
wasn't
like, cling to
wasn't
walls, and
Strider Hero.
He had a rifle also, but
It was Strider Hinjo.
Ah,
Oh,
oh wow, that's
okay.
yeah, that's
the
true.
robot Strider.
Right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
The one who wears a gray outfit instead
Yeah,
of blue.
yeah.
But his the kanji on his vest still says "Hear you."
Oh, really?
Yeah, they didn't bother to. They
Also,
didn't
some
bother
of
to
the-
find out what his shirt said, and so the other character's name is still on his shirt. It's really awesome.
also some of the worst goddamn character art and cover art of that game.
Oh, well, I
ever.
mean, that's-
Well,
yeah.
the Genesis
I mean,
one was pretty terrible too.
yes,
I
it
remember
was.
that.
It was the guy with a
That's
beefy
where
sort of guy, and
He's like
Yeah.
killing an Arab or something.
yeah.
Is it
and-
an Arab or is
well,
it a guy
and he's
with
using like a diamondy sort of sword.
Yeah.
And the funny thing is, the logo's right above, and it's
Yeah.
got the actual Strider sword in it. So I mean, they had a
Yeah.
guide, I guess. But
the guy
no,
who did the
it's-
logo knew. The guy who did
Well,
the
the
painting.
thing is, I think that art was actually assembled out of unrelated art that they had just sort of lying around. Because if you look in the background, those crazy monkey guys, they're like Warhammer figures.